Go.
So what we want to go over is our 10-step coaching process. So if you're going to use it within your organization and set up a more formal approach to coaching, you're going to start with the coaching setup where you identify the rules of engagement. Why are you here? Why is this coaching important? What are you hoping to get out of the coaching? Is this coaching more for someone's development, or is it more because there's some specific behaviors that we need to coach to? And then we're going to really start with item number 2 is where we really identify the specific needs. So if we can do a 360 assessment, which identifies everybody's perception of their leadership, and then you roll out a profile XT, as you're going to see here in just shortly, where you get to see who someone is at their core, and then you can see where the disconnect is. People's perception versus the reality and who they are at their core. You know, you might get feedback that, I'll give you a real one. I was coaching an accounting manager, and her direct reports rated her very highly. The peers rated her very low in terms of her communication and keeping people in the loop, that kind of thing. And then I did on the Profile XT, it showed up that she was low assertive, low sociability, which told me that the reason her peers have this perception that she's not doing some of these things is because she's just not internally selling herself. You know, based on a couple of Profile XT scores that she had. It really told me where to work with her. Not to work with her necessarily in overall communication, but really how to sell herself a little better internally inside the organization. And that's putting it simply, but you get to see a lot of information from assessments, and we'll talk more about that when we get into the specific information. You can see we've talked about this. Make sure you look at people's past performance appraisals as well, so that you can see has this been brought up before, you know, and why not? Okay, after you've done all the assessment piece, then what you want to do, step 3, is meet with the participant to go over all the assessment feedback. And this is where you're going to find out what they are buying into and what they don't buy into. We have this worksheet we'll show you, which demonstrates of the feedback that's come in. We have 3 sections. What are you willing to accept? What's hard to accept? I'm sorry. What's easy to accept? What's hard to accept? And what won't you accept? And that's really interesting to see. People will say, "Oh, I get it. This is easy to accept. I know when they said I was really a great delegator, how true it is." Right? Or they might say, "Yeah, this is easy to accept. I recognize that I need to do a better job of communicating, maybe having staff meetings or whatever." You'll see what they totally take ownership of. The next section is hard to accept. Those are things that it was hard for them to get that feedback. They wish that wasn't the case, but they're still willing, and there's a whole description for how do you define easy, hard, and won't. But the second box is it's hard, but they're willing to work on it. And then the last section is what they won't accept. They don't agree with it. They think the feedback is wrong. And you're really looking for how much is in that last section as their coach. How much is in that last section? Because if most of it is in that last section, they may not be coachable. And we'll talk more about all of that this afternoon and tomorrow. What's that? Yeah, we might go over the tool on Wednesday. And then you can see section 4 is then when we meet with the boss. And we go over the assessment feedback with the manager of that person and get extra insight from the managers to what the goals are, what they want to see. Then section 5 is the creation of the development plan by the participant and reviewed by the coach. Notice that. You don't develop the development plan for them. They develop it. That's where you see if they have buy-in. So you've given them all the assessment feedback, you've given them the template that we'll show you for the development plan, and now they go do it. Occasionally, what happens is, and I've had this happen twice on me, where they come to the meeting and they haven't filled out their development plan. They haven't even tried. And that has, I should say that's happened more than twice. But then typically, they commit to doing it and they get it done by the next meeting. or you go through it with them. Well, in two people's situations, this is things that you just might come up across. What happened and why I didn't get it wasn't because they weren't bought in or they weren't willing to own it, but they had to finally fess up that they do not know how to write. And every once in a while, so in 22 years it's happened to me twice, but every once, you know, you really got to dissect why. Why aren't they getting this done? What's getting in their way? And again, they have to be willing to be pretty vulnerable with you, right? To be found out. One of them works for a really large organization. And then, you know, to be found out, right? That was really tough. When I say writing skills, I'm not talking advanced writing skills. I'm talking just basics. And so they had an admin person that did it all for them. So it was really interesting, right, to see that. And then step 6, identify and prepare coaching materials and modules. You can see on the back table, we have a lot of the coaching modules laying out for you to review. We'll talk about it tomorrow where you can see, and you're going to be going through them. I think you have 2, in front of you. Those are 2 coaching modules that we'll talk more about and actually do coaching sessions for you around those 2 modules in this training. But you're going to identify what materials you need to bring with you for the one-on-one coaching or group coaching that you'll do around development tools. And then number 7 is where you start all your coaching sessions. Now, do you see all the pre-work? This isn't I'm just going to jump in and start seeing what your problems are and talking through with you. No, there is a lot of pre-work that needs to be done before you can really make sure that those coaching sessions are specific to them, valuable to them, have exercises you're ready to get them into so that you can actually start changing behavior right when you start working with them. You know, we can have all the awareness in the world, right? I'm aware that I need to lose weight, right? It's really accountability that's only going to cause it. I mean, think about it. I can teach you how to lose weight. I can teach you how to use all the exercise equipment at the gym, right? I got the head knowledge. But the only way I'm actually going to do it is when I have a coach. In fact, I had a fitness coach a year ago, and I actually lost 25 pounds because I had somebody monitoring me. What did I do? I actually gained 20 of the 25. It's that accountability coach. And, you know, I can look at it and go, you know what? The behaviors weren't. I didn't have enough experiences, possibly, to really get me into that long-lasting behavior. I now have a crisis that will get me into that long-lasting behavior. But, right, we've got to make sure that we have the tools and the experiences that really get them to permanently change behavior when we're gone, when we're not their coach. Then what you're going to do, so you've been going through all these coaching sessions with them. I would say on average, from the outside perspective, on average, we do about 6 coaching sessions. That's about the average. Every once in a while, 3 coaching sessions. Every once in a while, 3 coaching sessions is all we need because we find out the problem isn't with the person that's in coaching. Right? That happens sometimes. And sometimes, and I would say it often happens, it was just a communication issue. And so that's solvable in like 3 coaching sessions. When we really have to work on behavior change, we're looking at more like 6 to 12 coaching sessions. So if you're going to roll out an internal leaders developing leaders culture, you know, what would you recommend? I'd recommend 12 sessions, 12 coaching sessions. I'd even recommend 6 monthly sessions and then go to every other month after that. So it's even a little longer than a year. And then, and so that's for you to decide how you want to roll those out. Number 8, you repeat the assessment process for measurement and improvement. Number 9, one-on-one feedback meeting with the participant after you've now redone the assessment. You don't need to redo that Profile XT assessment that you all took, because chances are your behavior is not going to change because it's who you are at your core. But you definitely want to redo a 360 evaluation and see where the perception has changed about your leadership. And then you'll meet one-on-one also with the manager. Any questions on this process?
question on the assessment with the 360. Do you have that in your coaching system? Is that conducted and sent out by the person being coached? Are they sending out the request for 360 information, or is that being done through, an external, person? How is that portrayed, I guess, peers?
Yeah, and the answer is it's different in each situation. So sometimes it's the boss of the person we're coaching that determines who's going to be the raters, and then we send it out from here, from our site. Sometimes it is their performance, like we have a performance management software system called TrackStar, and that one, the 360 is built into it. So anybody, you can email outside of the organization or inside of the organization, and it gets generated right off of your own, or around your competencies that you're being measured on annually. So you can do it that way. Sometimes it's the manager who says, I want people to know it's for my development. I want to be the one that sends it out. So it really just depends on the situation, how you want it to be perceived. And do you have thoughts?
No,
on
I've
it?
just done it. I've had managers send it out. Created it for them and then them send it out, so it comes from them. So it has more of a positive feel as the way their peers or the direct reports. So I just didn't know.
Right.
What your process is.
And we actually recommend ideally to not do a 360 assessment just before performance appraisals that have salaries tied to it. We have one organization that we're working with that does this just before the performance appraisal, and so it's kind of gotten to the point where the organization recognizes that people know it helps determine whether someone gets a raise or not, and so it's getting skewed. So it's better if people just know that it's a development tool, it's halfway through the year, not at the end of the year type of thing. Any thoughts or comments?
Also, don't do one after a riff.
Or don't do one right after a riff, yeah. Yeah, everybody know what a riff is?
No.
Reduction in force. It's when you have layoffs.
Or as the last step before you're gonna let somebody go.
Yeah.
Because you'll have a hard time getting anybody to sign on for it after that.
Yes, it's very true, good point. Very good point. Other questions on this process? Anybody use a process like this already inside the workplace? Does anybody see that this would never work inside the workforce, the workplace? How about if you use this process inside the workplace? What kind of change do you think you would get?
A more engaged workforce.
Yeah,
More accountable, of course,
yeah.
especially if they use it all the way up.